Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 3, the final day of the Redikall Summit 2025, where we have tried to bring to you reasons and ways to solve your stress. And today we have with us a very eminent Ayurveda expert who is going to talk to us, about his, not only, he has his passion for holistic wellness, and he is here to help us understand what it is to master mindfulness in our daily lives. So I'm very happy to introduce to you Dr. Vijayakumar. He is an Ayurveda expert with extensive experience in providing personalized wellness solutions. Dr. Vijay is the go-to expert for those seeking improved health and well-being. He has designed innovative green nanomedicines and has guided numerous individuals towards a healthier lifestyle. As a seasoned medical professional, Dr. Vijay Kumar has held various prestigious positions, including head of the department at S. Vyasa University and Lakulish Yoga University. He's also a team lead at Live Your Best Life in Los Angeles, USA. Dr. Vijay is fluent in multiple languages, including Kannada, English, Hindi, and Telugu. With a plethora of qualifications, which includes BAMS, MD, MSc, and PhD, Dr. Vijay is a true expert in his field. He's published 6 books and authored over 60 research articles. Dr. Vijay Kumar's achievements have earned him numerous accolades, including being nominated as a member of various government and non-government institutions. I think we're very privileged to hear from him what he has to talk to us, and he will guide us through mastering mindfulness for daily life. Very happy to welcome you, Dr. Vijay. The stage is yours.
Namaste. Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much for such a great, a detailed introduction. Though I'm a very insignificant human being trying to, contribute something in the field of holistic health and well-being. And thank you very much for the opportunity to share a few of my thoughts with our health enthusiasts today. Okay. So without further delay, let me try to share a slide deck. Just a moment. Yeah. So to begin with, shall we begin or do we need to wait? Okay.
You can.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I was thinking of starting with mindfulness, but then I thought, let us try to understand stress in a medical perspective. Then it would be very easy for us to understand what mindfulness is and how we can actually train our perception and make our life more convenient and easier out. So to begin with, if we try to understand what stress is, actually what we see through social media and even through scientific community articles, wherever, because these days you get to see informational diarrhea everywhere. People are talking about stress all the time, but without knowing actually what stress is. Stress is actually a part of our existence. It is like you could say it is part of our evolution. It's a basic instinctual response. So we have 3 responses. One is stress response. The other one is rest and digest response. So even in the stress response, we have 3 stages of stress. One is fight and flight and freeze. So basically, these are the 3 things which kept us alive throughout our lifespan. Because of today's modernization, we have, I think, not faced a saber-toothed lion or tiger these days, but definitely we are experiencing day-to-day stress, because stress has created within the system, it is inbuilt to protect a species from any sort of threat. It could be physical or it could be, anyways, it could be environmental as well. But this instinct over a period of time has shifted from actual physical threat to a perceived psychological threat. This transition, what we are not, able to understand, because body doesn't know whether it is real or not, because it's a pure neurological response. Stress starts at the brain level and it circulates throughout the body in the form of neuroendocrine changes. Brain doesn't know whether it is a real threat or not. It is just an instinctual response. Now the question comes, who decides it? Who decides whether it is real or not? That's a big question. Because if you see today's, our lifestyle, societal and instinctual conflict, modern day stress, most of it comes not from physical, in nature, because we have plenty of food to eat, we have shelter, we have social security, more or less we have everything. We don't have to be worried of, basic survival, but still we are stressed. That's because most of our triggers, our stressor comes from either psychological or interpersonal. Because back in those days, our stressors are usually from the predators because of predation or because of starvation, like natural calamities or starvation. But these days we don't have such, triggers, but we have something called psychological and interpersonal. Unfortunately, as I said, our brains doesn't know what is real and what is unreal, what is perceived. That is where the entire, the shift in stress and stress related issues starts, because we are constantly under the exposure of either psychological or either interpersonal issues, because that is where we face, like, even whether it's work or whether it's our personal life, both the ways we are always interacting with our psychological inputs and at the same time with our interpersonal issues. Because most of the time, if we try to understand health, it always goes with WHO's standard definition of health is a state of not mere physical, absence of physical disease or deformity. But these days, people are trying to understand health in a better, manner. They found out something interesting, because despite of having all those standard requirements to be called as so healthy, we are missing something which is very crucial, which is adaptability, the ability to adapt and self-manage in the face of social and physical as well as emotional challenges. We are lacking the ability to cope with our, adaptability. For example, if you say, if a smallest change that takes place in our day-to-day life even causes a lot of irritation, because we are not adaptable. We have become very rigid. Physically also, we have become very stiff. We are not flexible with our, cognition, thought process. Even we are not flexible with our emotions. We are always emotionally driven because we are emotionally rigid. The adaptability, what we call it as in general term, flexibility is not there. Because of that lack of flexibility, we are facing, enormous amount of stress in each and every aspect of our life, our daily life. But unfortunately, Indian, perspective of health was very clear since from the beginning. They said, if you are, enthusiasm to work, and to be compassionate, only two criteria. If anybody falls into this two criteria, or if they fulfill these two criteria, then definitely you can call them as healthy individuals. Because that is what is more important. If you have to have that enthusiasm, because there is one study, I think it was published in the year 2006 or 7. I'm not very sure. But the finding, which is very interesting, what they did was they just went on the road and they asked people, those who are going to the office, they asked, do you want to go to work? Do you have to go to work? It seems very, idiotic to ask. But this question, this very simple question, can answer their state of, health and wellness. Because the minute they say, I have to go to work, then there is no enthusiasm. I need to go to work, I want to go to work, that shows their enthusiasm. So enthusiasm is something which is very crucial when it comes to individuals' health and wellness. And without being enthusiastic, you cannot be compassionate. It is like no two sides of a coin. And Indian seers and sages were very clear since from the beginning. They said if you don't have that adaptability, then there is no point. No matter how healthy you try to be, no matter how much expensive supplements you take. These days, you see people consume unimaginable amount of supplements, but still end up being in hospitals. That is purely because one thing we have not understood, it is not just the supplement, it is not just the exercise which keeps us healthy or stress free. We need something which is comprehensive, because it has to be both the ways. It has to be top down and bottom up at the same time. Because I would like to quote here Mark Twain's very famous quote here. He says, the reality is I've experienced a great deal of pain and suffering in my life, and most of which has never happened. Very interesting, right? Because the minute we read this, it sounds very idiotic. But in reality, this is what we all are experiencing. Even there are n number of pain theories which says actual pain felt is only 20%. The 80% of the pain what we are experiencing, it is either perceived because of the consequences of the pain or the complications what we actually think of. So in reality, perception is something which decides everything. That's what we are experiencing right now. Even when it comes to stress, this is the biggest problem, because our brain doesn't know what is real and what is unreal. It is whatever which comes from our mind, whatever our mind perceives, the same thing will be translated into a neurobiological change at the brain level, and that is the same thing will get translated into physiological response. I'm not saying stress is definitely a bad thing, because as I said, it is part of our existence and evolution, without which we cannot survive a day. So we need to have stress response. But only thing is, if it becomes unregulated amount, or if it stands for a long time without properly handling it, it becomes chronic stress, or we generally call it as distress. Not de-stress, distress. So what makes stress so negative is because in an initial phase, stress is good because it is a eustress, it motivates us, it helps us to accomplish many goals, whether they're short term or long term. But as time passes, the things becomes more complicated, because we try to sit on the same stress and trying to generate more response with the happening stresses, like parallelly that happens or that comes along, without managing the existing stress. Initially, body has a capacity, we call it as allostatic state, because it gets the trigger, then it tries to maintain it, and over a period of time it tries to adapt with that demand. Then gradually the same stress continues for a prolonged time, let's say for 6 months or a year or so, it becomes a health risk, what we call it as allostatic overload. Generally, it takes some time. That is why we call it as a silent killer. Most of the time, people think stress is not a problem, because these days everybody is talking about stress. But actual consequences of stress can be seen only after prolonged exposure. It is not like an infection that you get an infection and immediately after the infection you will have the consequences or the symptoms. It's not like that. It's something which is very, very, what you call it as, like a gradual and progressive, without giving any warning signs. So we think, oh, it's absolutely fine, because everybody has stress and everybody go through with stress, so it is absolutely fine. Yeah, it is fine for a certain period of time, what I say, until your body is able to manage this allostatic load. But the same allostatic load can become overload, and it can cause us severe physiological and psychological disorders, because it not only affects our body, it affects entire persona, our our cognitive functions, our psychological being, our behaviors, our even energy levels, every interpersonal relationships, everything. You can name it. It can influence or affect more or less all the domains of our life. So why it becomes so significant? Because these days we get to hear even from common cold to cancer, we try to put blame on genes, genetic inheritance or genetic predisposition is not a very major component in our life, because most of the genes becomes expressive only when they are exposed to a certain epigenetic phenomena or the environment. Once those genes constantly get the exposure of particular environment, they become expressive. Even the oncogenes, the cancer causing genes, will only be able to express themselves when they are in that environment. That environment, what we generally call it as internal environment. The internal environment is the entire human system, which is constantly in the interaction with the external world. That's why we always say even toxic environment along with toxic relationships. It's not just toxic food. Toxic environment, toxic relationships, toxic food, everything matters, because as in yoga, you might have heard yatha brahmande tata pindande, means whatever is there in this microcosm, the same thing comes from the macrocosm, because this micro macro interaction, the external world and the internal world is constantly, both are constantly interacting. Even our very gene expression is constantly dependent on the external environmental influences that causes the internal environmental changes. So most of our disease are depending on what environment we provide, and that environment comes from how we perceive things around and what we consume and with whom we interact. All those things collectively decides. So do we have an option? Because if you see this stress cascade, it is so scary. I'm really sorry to keep this bizarre slide, because it covers more or less entire human system. Because if you see from the endocrine system to neurological system, it affects more or less all the systems, because stress response generally happens through sympathetic medullary cortex axis and hepatic axis, that is hypothalamo pituitary axis, the immediate response and the chronic response. Both the ways, if it stays for a longer time, it has the potential to change and to remodulate healthy normal functioning system into chronically disabled system. So please don't take stress as a tag along the process. Stress is something which is very, very important to understand and handle. Without understanding, we cannot handle. The problem with our current scenario, I'm very sorry to say that, because if we see today, everybody is moving from Ashtanga yoga to Vikalanga yoga. They try to, I don't know why, who told them to do all sort of weird postures. Even if it's take Patanjali Yoga Sutra, not even one asana is mentioned. Even if you go to Ashtanga Hridaya, or this one, Goraksha Samhita, Siddha Siddhanta Paddhati, or any Hatha Yoga, traditional Hatha Yoga books, none of them have actually mentioned this kind of postures. People, I don't know why they have to permutate and create this kind of handicap poses, because ultimate outcome of any practice should be a balanced state, like you could say the composed state of being. But here it has become like so pathetic. After practicing, none of them could definitely feel that composed state. So this very science of yoga or science of holistic well-being has totally misunderstood, and people all over the world, not only in India, of course, India is no exception. All over the world, people are just trying to focus on one thing. I think maybe because when they try to challenge their bodies through this kind of difficult postures, they are somehow they feel more grounded, because they are so desperate to challenge. That is the reason everybody wants to try this kind of physical postures without actually understanding the entirety or holistic outlook of yoga. Because the entire purpose of yoga stands on this, state, being mindful. Not mindful, being mindful. In this state of complete open perception, where you are there, being present in any given situation, without getting carried away with the situation, or without getting entangled or attached with the situation. This is very, very interesting thing when it comes to yoga. Because even if we try to explore our psychological distress, more or less our thoughts are like in a negative loop. Even our perception continues with the same way, even because our behavior follows our perception, because first we perceive, then we cognize, then we behave. So all these things are somewhere interconnected with one basic thing that is called a state of mind. And this state of mind, we definitely have clear control over it, but we don't want to do it. It is like Duryodhana complex. If you ask anybody, you know that, right? You don't have to worry so much. They say, yeah, I know, I shouldn't be worried about things so much, because nothing is permanent. It's like this too shall pass. Everybody knows. You ask anybody, we all know that. But if you ask them, why can't we just practice it? As Swami Shivananda said, I quote, tons of theory is equal to ounce of practice. So that's where the entire, this Abhimanyu's Chakravyuh starts. We know things, but we don't know how to do things. Even though if we know how to do it, but we don't want to do it because we don't have that strong willpower, or we don't have that, courage to do it. Because we are so weak when it comes to facing our own lacunas. We don't want to recognize them. We don't want to address them. We don't want to improve them. That's why we always say, right, the biggest challenge is to face our own selves. It's not facing the world, it's facing our own selves. So that's where this concept of mindfulness comes. Most of them think mindfulness comes from Buddhism. I think more or less all the religions on this planet do have certain practices, religious practices, which quote unquote teaches the same thing. That is basic mindfulness, how to be mindful about our day-to-day process. It's not just being mindful about our own thought process. It is being mindful about everything around, like from oneness to wellness. This entire journey starts with mindfulness. Recently I've come across one interesting thing. Somebody was suggesting for weight management, people are going for mindfulness eating courses, where people teach us how to eat mindfully, and they charge quite hefty fee. I was literally shocked. I said, how would they teach how to eat? Because that also has become very fancy thing these days. It's not just what you eat. All those years, what you eat was a big industry. Now people have started with intermittent fasting kind of thing. It is when to eat. Now how to eat. See, diet is evolved from what we used to eat, what we eat, to when we eat, now how to eat. Very interesting, right? We have become very creative these days, but unfortunately, all these things have been clearly mentioned in Indian context, but most of this information is hidden in Sanskrit verses, which Western people are decoding better than what we could. So now they are, conveying in a scientific manner that you should eat mindfully. If you ask me, no matter what, even if we piss, we can piss mindfully. I I teach my prostate and urinary incontinence patients. Just use the technique. And even benign prostate hyperplasia patients, men with BPH, when I told them, why can't you just mindfully, urinate? They used to laugh. They said, is it possible? I said, why not? You can do any activity mindfully. It doesn't matter whether it is pissing or whether it is drinking water. And it works, because the minute we try to, mindfully focus on what we are doing, if we are not distracted, we are keeping that open perception, then things will settle down. Our nerve conduction becomes slow. Our muscle contraction will become lessened. Then once you have smooth muscle relaxation, yeah, the trigone of bladder becomes more relaxed. You can pass urine comfortably. It's just an example. I'm saying it can be, used in anything we do. Sometimes we just want to sit down and do nothing, right? Actually, that is the inner voice which says just be idle. Be idle in the sense, just observe. Be open and observe. That's what actually mindfulness is. We do have that instinctual, what you call it as, like sometimes we develop that spontaneous urge to be mindful, but unfortunately we are always mindful with full of things which we really don't need. That's where all this mess up starts. So generally we say, when it comes to managing stress, first thing is we should try to recognize the stressors and stress responses. Two things we need to recognize. Once we recognize, like, you have the solution with you. It's like half a solution. The recognitions become very important when it comes to stress and most of the perception related issues. Stress is also a perception issue. Okay. So once we recognize the stressors, the triggers, and at the same time, we should even recognize how our body responds for those triggers. So that requires a strong internal awareness. If I ask you, without even paying attention, will you be able to experience hunger, thirst, or any bodily sensations? Answer is no. Because in order to experience even bodily changes, we need to pay attention. So without paying attention, I don't think it is possible to experience anything. So we need to develop that internal awareness. Internal awareness is nothing but, just paying attention. So that once we develop that internal awareness, that gradually takes into a state of mindfulness. And once we are in that state of mindfulness, that will definitely help us to enhance our coping skills, because we can't avoid stressors. Stressors are part of life. If my wife is a stressor, I cannot avoid it, right? But these days people say, okay, get divorced. They think it's very easy. But the minute you try to apply for a divorce, they will have a lot of compensatory related issues. So I'm just giving an example, not an advice. So why this internal awareness is very important is, it requires multifaceted, faceted things. When it comes to human body is the most complex thing anybody can imagine of. It not only stands on what we eat or what we see, what we perceive. It stands on multiple inputs. Like at a fraction of a second, you could say, like, thousands of thoughts are getting processed, and the interpretation is generated, and body is trying to create response. At the same time, we are even doing so many things, though these are not considered as multitasking, but this entire system is doing billions of things at a given time. So in order to develop that amount, that degree of awareness, we need to have multidimensional approach. It's not just by just mere changing the diet, though diet plays a very important role, because we are nothing but what we eat. We are nothing but food rearranged. So we should eat diet which nourishes our experiences, not which stimulate our experiences. most of us, we always prefer chatpata hona chahiye. Sunday, then it should be like a dhamakadar nasta hona chahiye. We need to have a stronger stimulations, sensory stimulations. Most of the time, it should look good, it should smell good, it should taste good. Oh my god, I want to feel the taste like a whole day long. It's not possible because we are trying to find distraction with food, because we don't want to experience our thought process. We just want to get diverted from the thought process. That is why we seek refuge with food. Sometimes, oh, I want to see something good, let's go to Kashmir. You go and ask people who live in Kashmir, like, do you really enjoy the scenery? They say, we are so bored, we are bored to death. And if you go and ask people in Ahmedabad, they say, yeah, we are so bored to death by seeing this concrete jungle. We want to go see some greenery. You go ask people who live in Junagadh forest, they say, we are so sick of this forest. We want to go and stay in a city. Why it's not the scenery which is actually making you feel good or bad? It's how we try to distract our mental process with external objects through stimulation, and it is happening like continuously, either food or either sight, or it could be touch, or it could be smell. We always try to seek refuge with these five sensory inputs. That is the problem, because these sensory inputs get so exhausted and they want more, and they want something different. That is why same thing will not make you happy all the time. We need something else. So seeking refuge or trying to develop that distraction with sensory input is always going to be blunder. That is what we all are right now trying to explore. But yoga says, hold on, why are you trying to go and explore through this five sensory organs? Why can't you just invert them, like using pratyahara, invert them and try to just explore your thought process? It may take some time, but once you are there, you don't need any external stimuli. So that's what this entire framework says. The multidimensional existence of human being is like boon and bane at the same time. It gives us an opportunity to work on it from multiple directions and from multiple aspects. So it's whether it is diet or whether it's our lifestyle choices, all those things constantly help us to give that strength, and it helps us to gain that insight, the locus of control. It always gives internal locus of control where we take full responsibility of our actions and try to develop better coping, because we will have a better sense of perception. Otherwise, we try to blame others, we try to blame environment, we always try to blame external things. We never take the responsibility of whatever we are. So mindfulness is not something which is very what you call it as like a simple phenomenon. Mindfulness is like a life changing experience. Once we try to get into that state, definitely it will alter our entire state of being. There are so many studies. I would say there are more than 3,800 studies on different components of health and well-being. People are concluded, but few of them seems to be interesting and relevant here. Uh, by doing, I'm not taking only one part of asana or pranayama or mudra, bandha or kriya. When I use the word yoga, yoga starts from like simple, sukha pranayama to advanced Kundalini yoga. I'm not getting into which style, which school of yoga, but in general, mechanistic, outlook of yoga says, if you try to practice any form of yoga, first thing that changes is the attitude. There is an attitude shift from negative perception to positive perception towards anything in our life. It is not just stressors. Even if you see people, once they start seriously practicing yoga, the kind of food they choose, the kind of people they want to hang out with, the selections what they make in life changes. And there are people who practice yoga for the sake of practicing yoga. Like, I want to have beautiful butts, so let me do yoga. Please don't expect any positive attitude change when it comes to perception, because if you are only serious, then you can get to see these changes. And self-awareness improves. We become more aware of our internal and external process, and our coping becomes very well enhanced. We feel more calmer than before, because even single session of yoga practice can reduce our cortisol, the stress hormone, to a greater extent. And we develop positive attitude because of spirituality is not because we become saintly human beings. Spirituality it's nothing but we become more open, because it's a very loaded word to mention, because the minute we say spirituality, घर बार छोड़ो चलो हरिद्वार. So I'm not talking about the Bhagava kind of spirituality. I'm talking about just finding our true nature. Okay, that's what the adhi atma adhyatma context here. So it actually gives the sense of oneness, that spirituality component will be triggered, and we become more compassionate, not towards street dogs, or feeding street dogs with Parle-G biscuits. Compassionate is we become self-compassionate. So that is something which is very essential, because if you have to be compassionate to others, you have to be compassionate to yourself first. If I am not compassionate about myself, I can never be compassionate towards others. So that comes with love. It is not like selfish love. It is selfless love. If once we start practicing, we experience that state. And even biologically, you can say, n number of physiological changes that generally takes place the day when you start practicing yoga. But the chronic stress regulation part, that is hypothalamo-pituitary adrenal axis, becomes more stable, because if you see from immunoresponse state, like people develop frequent cold cough, will always have higher catecholamines and cortisol levels in their blood. So once you start practicing, even here and there, 10-15 minutes of breathing exercise, and even meditation, even simple naam jap, anything could be fine. That stabilizes HP axis, and the heart rate variability components improves greatly. Their blood pressure goes low. Their vasovagal attacks, their syncope attacks becomes very rare. So these are the physiological changes which you can see very evidently from the very beginning of yoga practice. And inflammatory changes, because these days, from endocrine disease to cancer, it has become very prevalent, right? And especially post COVID, we get to see very large number of cancer patients. Every other person is getting diagnosed with one or the other, either a neurodegenerative disease, or autoimmune disease, or cancer. Question is whether this COVID or COVID-related infections have caused severe spike in inflammatory response. Answer is yes, because if you see the interleukin 6 tuber necrosing factor alpha, there are so many pro-inflammatory cytokines which becomes very prevalent, and even the nuclear factor kappa B. These are the very powerful what you call it as pro-inflammatory cytokines. If you have a prolonged period of this inflammatory and pro-inflammatory cytokines, we tend to develop degenerative and even cancer-like life-threatening diseases. And all these things are directly associated with stress response. Chronic stress has a direct link with all these inflammatory and pro-inflammatory cytokine markers. And those things can be easily addressed. And if you see these days, people are talking about nitric oxide levels. It's like a nitric oxide diet. And people are talking about nitric oxide so much, because the entire vasculature in our blood, in our body, vasculature is the circulatory system, especially the arterial system in the body. it depends on nitric oxide cycle. Whether nitric oxide synthesis is formed well, and if it is formed well, then how it is actually interacting with the entire blood vessels that creates the entire healthy blood flow pattern and organ nourishing pattern, and that can be achieved only through proper nitric oxide levels. And do we have any better options to increase it? Yes, just simple, I would say Brahmari Pranayama. When you do Brahmari Pranayama, it actually elevates your nitric oxide levels 13%. Just one single sitting. So it not only helps to reduce stress, but at the same time, it enhances your state of health and well-being. So simple practices. Don't always think for stress management, I have to sit and meditate. No, even you can just use simple breathing technique like Brahmari Pranayama, Kapalabhati, or even Sukha Pranayama. But make sure you always add retention, Bahya Kumbhaka and Antar Kumbhaka to your breathing. That alone will suffice, all these changes. Without Kumbhaka, if you just do simple breathing, it may not give you desired results. So it's always better to add retention practices, Bahya and Abhyantara. And compassion is something which is very well ingrained in yogic tradition, that you need to have that compassion, and compassion always starts with our own selves, because self compassion is very important. Most of the people who develop stress, right, they always have less self compassion. They what we call it as, they're very hard on themselves. They should always be compassionate, and once they become more compassionate, they always have better acceptance. And once you have a better acceptance, our attitude towards managing things changes. And especially when you practice yoga, initial days we will have a lot of issues, because seeing others makes us more uncomfortable. It's very discomforting when somebody is doing perfect posture, and if I am not able to do it. But as time passes, as we continue our practice, maybe by the end of second or third month, we don't even notice what other people are doing, because we have developed that self compassion. We have developed the way we are, and we are trying to work on our own selves. So that way, I think that actually, without even noticing it, we develop better self compassion. The allostatic overload restoration can happen only through this kind of natural process, like yoga, healthy diet, and meditation, being mindful all the time. It helps our entire what you call it as our metabolic system to reboot. These days there is a trend called as metabolic flexibility, because it's an old concept now. People who are thin are healthy. Even people who are obese, they can be fat but healthy, because they have a better metabolic flexibility compared to people who are skinny. In medical terms, we call them as toffies, thin from outside, fat inside. So this kind of physical traits give us a clear indication that you can develop metabolic flexibility, whether you are thin or whether you are fat, doesn't matter. As long as your metabolic flexibility is good, you can be healthy, disease free. So that is what this allostatic restoration or allostatic neutralization, overload neutralization can help us to do. And to do that, simple selection of lifestyle, and lifestyle can only be worked out only when we have that state of mind. Without that state of mind, it's highly impossible, because we get to have this allostatic load in three ways. One is physical trauma, second one is emotional trauma, third one is chemical trauma. So these three injuries, physical, emotional, and chemical, if we can work on these three injuries, then definitely we can restore our entire metabolism, because we have both positive feedback loops and negative feedback loops to work on. And even we have the possibility to get into a cellular level, where we can even change cell signaling pathways. Studies related to mindfulness and meditation has shown that just sitting mindfully, you can alter your hormone responses. And those studies have been well documented and established. So what I am trying to say is we can also change what has been already, damaged. It is not that preventing the damage, but even we can restore, or even we can rework on the past damages. There is a possibility to develop optimal metabolic flexibility. The question comes with feasibility is, do we, really need to do only yoga? Is there any other possible way? Yeah, there are so many ways. People say recreation, traveling, even drinking. People use drinking as a, excuse or recreational thing for stress, but in reality it actually causes more stress, because post experience or post consumption, it always gives rise to metabolic load, that in turn, boost their allostatic overload. So the best way is to develop sort of self discipline that comes only with nairantaryam satadabhyasa, repeated practice, even little by little. We don't have to, achieve higher goals or higher things in a day. It takes time. We all have our own, inbuilt personalities. We have our own fight to, carry on. It's not that we are jobless and we are so comfortable we can start doing whatever we want. We cannot, because we have our own commitments. We have our own samsara to take care of. So despite of having all that, we can definitely sail through by making small adjustments. Smaller adjustments in lifestyle can definitely change, huge personality issues. So small things we can start working on. So feasibility is definitely there. And when you talk about reliability, answer is definitely yes. Because if you see how reliable these practices are, from an individual single session to a prolonged practice, there are studies. People have studied effect of yoga in one single session. They have followed it up people after 15 years. You can get to see there is a wide range of benefits starting from individual session to 15 years follow up. So whether you want immediate results, whether you want prolonged results, answers are there, because the entire beneficiary effect of yoga practices or being mindfulness depends on vagal tone, the vagal response. So once we experience that vagal tone or vagal response, we tend to follow the same. And most of them ask, I'm old, I have this knee replacement, hip replacement, I have back issues, I have spondylosis, where I have heart issues, whether I can do yoga. Yeah, there is no, age bar. There is no restriction. Vayoruddho ati vruddho. Hatiyog Pradipika clearly says there is no such restrictions. Even though if you are debilitated with disease, you can comfortably practice yoga. It is like for everybody. It's not related whether you are physically fit or not. It is for everybody. But only thing is, you have to choose the practices which are congenial for your conditions. Only that thing we should work on. And for that, you should always seek help from people who are trained and trained professionals. So in conclusion, because it's a very vast area to explore, I was just trying to cover only the nutshell of the entire content. Uh, we cannot avoid stress, but definitely we can understand stress, recognize stressors, and recognize our body's response to the stress. And then we can definitely make, few smaller changes here and there, and it will definitely give better metabolic flexibility. We will be in a better position to enjoy stress than getting, negatively influenced by stress. Question is whether we can enjoy stress. People might be thinking, I think he must be an idiot to say that. I would say, why not? Because it's always, yoga always says, right? If you have that internal state, whatever happens externally, even in your body, it doesn't actually affect you. You can be in that state of gunatita. You can be in that state of detached being where you are just being, carried out by responsibilities, not by your full involvement or attachment. So I think you can unmute and ask for questions if you have.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Vijayakumar. That was very insightful. And it is put in such a simplistic way. Maybe we can remove the slides if you can, so that people can be seen and they can talk to you. Yeah. So this was very insightful. Thank you very much. And I would like all our participants, if they have any questions, please just either raise your hand so we can ask one by one. And I'm sure you would have questions because this has been a very simple presentation and very easily understood. So my question first is, Dr. Vijayakumar, parents these days naturally see their children because of the not only the lifestyle, the trends and the way the whole world has evolved, that they don't have time for anything beyond what they are supposed to do, whether it is schoolwork, whether it is extra classes, whether it is, all that kind of thing. And parents may not realize it, but the children are also going through a lot of stress. And that kind of, how do you suggest that, they can develop mindfulness in their children? Because seeing their children like that, they themselves are going through a lot of stress. And then I think the whole environment and the energy of the house becomes, in a way, stressful. So what would you suggest, that they can do to help themselves and maybe very, very tactfully help their children?
Actually, you have asked a very, very straight question, because if our Prime Minister Modi ji can have time to practice 2 hours of yoga, I don't think we all are so busy. It's just an excuse that we always say we are busy. We can make time. If we can't make time for our own children, then for we have to earn? See, thing is, our children are dependent on us because they follow their parents. So it is like a mirror effect. So most of the time, what happens is, even though if we have time, we tend to, use that time spending on YouTube, on social media, scrolling some nonsense news. Instead of that, we can spend that time with our children. We can talk to them. We can just, there is no time. People don't even sit and talk to their own kids. So how can we even expect them to behave normally? And everybody has that what do you call it, as unrealistic expectation that their children should be exceptional. How could that be possible? If everybody is so exceptional, this world is like full of only exceptionals. There is no room for ordinary people like us. So
Right.
everybody is unique. The problem is we are not. We are in that rat race to compare with others. We are like, even we are comparing ourselves with others. Even we are comparing our children with others. First, we should stop comparing and stop thinking. We think too much. What if he or she doesn't perform well? Stop thinking. Start acting. We need to spend time.
Yeah.
Simple, yeah, simple, like even dining table conversations. Simple, to begin with, simple conversations. How was your day? People don't have time. Even while eating breakfast or dinner, they use their mobile as if they have to maintain the entire, cosmos. So it's just a perceptual error that we don't have time is a perceptual error. It is just that we are not organized, because we are so chaos, we are so disorganized. We always complain of I don't have time. So I've seen in this Bangalore traffic. Bangalore traffic is, these days people make, memes on this Bangalore traffic. It's so unpredictable, right? Despite of that, I've seen parents who spend good time with their children. Then they make a point to spend time with their children. And please don't have that unrealistic expectation with children. They have born and they have come to this world with their own unique capabilities. We should recognize and appreciate that. Instead of that, if we try to just compare, yeah, then it's always like a mirror effect. If I am stressed, by seeing me, my child will be so stressed. So we need to transform our personalities through mindfulness. Once we are calm, we are composed, our environment at home becomes more composed. So simple things, act of spending time, being with kids, like just be with them, be like a kid. Don't try to always give instructions. Spend some time, try to understand your children. I think most of the things will be resolved by just paying attention and giving some time. That's what I have observed.
Right. Thank you. I think this would be a good insight for all the mothers who are sitting here, correct? Anybody else with a
It
question?
sorry to interrupt. Even it is equally applicable to fathers also.
Yes, of course. That's very true. Parents, basically, not
Yes,
just
ma'am.
because the majority of the people here is ladies, so I thought I should tell them. But you're right, it is parents, correct. Yeah, Revati, you have a question? Please unmute and switch on your video.
Hmm. Thank you so much. Actually, you did away with a lot of myths, that which we have been fed by the internet and the WhatsApp status, and we keep forwarding like that is the most important thing in our lives. There is one thing that I wanted to confirm, that is like you said, spend mindful time with the children. But the children are so busy with their Google auntie. They trust the Google auntie more than their parents. So even before we say something, it's like, are bakwas. My chat GPT is telling me this. You mean to say you know more than chat GPT? That is the kind of questions we have to answer. And the second thing is, over the last few decades, I've seen people opening a library in their toilet. They cannot do anything. That's like, they have to read now, use mobiles. And that has really taken away the time of enjoying every moment of your life. Even I feel, even when we are peeing, we should feel it each and every sense, like, whatever, like that moment, we should hear the noises and feel it. But this library within the toilet has messed up everything. So your inputs on that, guidance and inputs on that, please.
I think I would just share my experience because I don't think I would suggest anything. Because first thing to begin with, now we are in the in an era of computational, computing and deep learning, whatnot. This artificial intelligence can give you what data has been fed to the system. So if your child says, "Do you know better than AI, the Gemini or Copilot or whatever?" just just tap their head and say, it doesn't have the experience, idiot, I have it. So it might have the information but not the wisdom. So chat GPT can give information. We are in the era of informational diarrhea. Everywhere people are like busy giving their gyan to others, sharing through WhatsApp, sharing through social media. I would recommend stop using those informations, because information alone will not be of any use, because it has to be practically usable material like wisdom or knowledge. This is not knowledge. What we are seeing is just information, even if it is from chat gpt. Okay, so if they tell that to you, just tell them it is only an information, it is not knowledge. Ask them to go Google what is the difference between knowledge, wisdom, and information. Okay, then ask them to come back. Just give them some intellectual stimuli. Okay, instead of just fighting with them. Okay, it's not a big deal. Even see, we survived without AI. So there is no point. Okay, they are already in that era. So there's no point. Only through intellectual stimulation you can have a healthy debate. Second thing, carrying gadgets to toilets. I strongly recommend no. One thing, it increases your time spent in toilet, because that becomes vulnerable for your hemorrhoids like piles. People develop unnecessarily hemorrhoids because they have to sit in the toilet on the toilet bench for a longer time. And second thing, carrying mobile to a toilet becomes very, very, what you call it as contaminated, because that is highly contaminated environment. So please do not carry your electronic gadgets to bathrooms. See how pathetic it is. We are staying in a house. House should be our more comfortable place of comfort, but we seek refuge in toilet. भाई सबसे छुटकारा मिले तो बाकी बस तो शांति शांत. We find that happiness in toilet. How pathetic, right? That should be the last place where we should be exploring peace. But unfortunately, we are finding our worship deity in toilets. So I recommend, please do not carry. Try to reduce your time spent in toilet, because that is highly contaminated environment. And if at all there is an emergency, then only you carry mobile. But when you come out, try to wipe it with sanitizer. Keep it less contaminated. Thank you.
Thank you. That was most helpful.
Thank you.
Yes, Renu.
Yeah, thank you, Aarti. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for such a beautiful session. Extremely knowledgeable. I have one question where I'm dealing with, basically in my life. I'm staying with aged parents. And as I see, due to Alzheimer's and due to memory loss, their mindfulness becomes very less. So how do we help them increase their mindfulness?
Thank you very much. Actually, it's a very thoughtful scenario, because generally in a general scenario, we always say as our parents age older, they become children, right? The actual meaning behind that saying is, as we age, our brain gets into a neuro degenerative mode, that is called as atrophy, cerebral atrophy, or small vessel disease. That is where they develop Parkinson's, Alzheimer, dementia, multiple system atrophy. So in that case, it is always better to start these practices, especially practices which can keep their cognitive function intact from their 50s. Once they are already 70 and above, chances are very less. In that case, we cannot ask them to practice mindfulness, but we have to practice more mindfulness to be more calm, composed, because now we have taken up the role of caregivers. Like now you are the parent of your aged parents. So taking care of geriatric population requires a lot of what you call it as stability. Unfortunately, by the time we will be in the midlife crisis and they will be in the geriatric crisis, like geriatric depression, it will be like I would say very, very tricky situation. We need more mindful practice, because we can't teach them. Only we can practice, because we are there at the receiver end. So we should be prepared.
So I had a question, sir, that if we are mindful, we are compassionate, we are taking care of them. So as we become more and more understanding, more and more compassionate, and more mindful, will this problem with them, I mean, it cannot reduce, as you are saying, but will it stall there? It will not go further? Because the instances of trauma which they were going through or they are going through have reduced?
Definitely, because hostile environment always triggers their neurological symptoms. If you provide them congenial or comfortable environment, being more compassionate, being more composed, without having more what do you call it, aggressive outbursts, definitely they will have sober symptoms.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Renu. Yes, Mamta.
Good morning, Doctor. This was a very, very informative and as well as very practical things that you told us. One thing I noticed that 90% of the diseases are not genetic. in one of the slides that you told, and that's very, I think for all of us, it gives so much of relief that we all think there are certain diseases, we just take it for granted that it is genetic, right? And as a counselor and special educator, I do come across with a lot of kids with special needs. Okay, and the steps that you told, the mindfulness, I feel, if the parents, because they go through a lot of stress, and it's not an easy thing for a parent, to bring up, especially with the societal stress, the stress from home, and in-laws, and the society and everything. Uh, I'm really thankful to you, actually, and I'll certainly look into this recording, and whatever possible from our side, I would certainly want to implement with the parents, uh, just from our side, to reduce, even if it is 0.5% also. I think it can create a miracle, in the lives of special kids. Thank you so much. And
Thank
any tips? Thank you. Any tips, to work with special children, like?
No, actually, thank you very much, ma'am. I would appreciate and congratulate your effort to actually bring some relief with especially people who are very needy, especially people who are specially abled, and especially their caretakers. 2010, we did one study with Deepika Disability School in Bangalore. You might have heard, run by Shankar Math. Till then, I was totally ignorant that I never even imagined even the teachers who teach a special educator would have, they will be having so much, distress. First time when we did assessment, I was actually shocked to see their heart rate variability change, because constantly they have to interact with people of special abilities, and they have to interact with their parents. It is like they are always on no, like, how to say that, it's like it's very difficult to define, because after data collection, when I spoke to them one on one, then I was like shocked to hear how much the suppressed emotions they go through with, because they can't share it with their parent, neither they can share it with management, and it's like it's a very difficult situation to be in. Then we did one separate study for caregivers, and it turned out to be really well. And after that study, both the trainers, as educators, and their parents, they came along together really well, and they even thought of starting one cooperative society kind of thing, so that most of them are so scared of their children's future, because if something happens to them,
Yeah.
well, what will happen to their children? Who will take care of them? So to come out of that uncertainty, they decided to create one society, including their educators being part of it, so that if something happens, then things should go on.
Oh,
So
that's amazing.
yeah, and they told me that because of this 3 months intervention, what we have given, we taught them some meditative techniques and some basic yoga practices. After that 3 months of intervention, they were able to accept things in a far better way than before. So acceptance level has increased. That has greatly reduced their distress all the time, what they used to go through. And even those educators, they were more lively, they were more relaxed. Even their management noticed it, and they told, yeah, things have changed for good. Now there are no friction. We are doing really good. He said, because even the educators, they started seeing things as a witness. they're not getting too involved with everything, because the boundary of emotional burden is very difficult to manage. But these yoga practices for 3 months have greatly helped them to compartmentalize what to be taken, what not to be taken.
Absolutely.
So that way,
In fact,
definitely.
thanks. Yeah, please, sorry.
I mean, that way, definitely for separate for caregivers and for educators, you can make some yoga-based intervention and let them come in a group, participate. They'll feel better once they have that group dynamics. It is like more of a group therapy. They'll have social assurance and emotional dependence.
Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, I thank Redikall, because with Redikall, when I work with special kids, I have actually seen amazing results. And the parents are really happy. So with this, I mean, this is another step. We can combine this and Redikall statements, wonderful statements, and then we can certainly bring another step, to release their stress level, to, as you said, the acceptance. That is the major thing. Because once many of them, they are in, they are not even ready to get the assessment done, because once the assessment done, the mask falls off, and they have to look at the reality and accept that.
So they're scared of getting labeled.
Yes, I get that. I get. And thank you so much.
You
And
can definitely
Dr.
come up with a program. Sorry to interrupt. I think you can definitely with Redikall. You are.
We lost. Yeah.
Dr. Vijayakumar, we lost you here. I think some internet connection.
Educator separate.
Maybe you'll have to
We
repeat it,
couldn't
Dr.
hear.
Vijayakumar, because there was an internet disturbance and we couldn't hear you. What you said just now, maybe you could repeat it.
No, sorry for that interruption. What I was trying to convey is, you guys are doing a really amazing work along with your lifestyle coaching and skill enhancement. You can add other components like yoga, skill development, coping strategies, healthy lifestyle changes, and make it a program. So that program can help both special educators and caregivers separately.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very enlightening session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mamta. That was very needed, I think, for all of us also to hear how to sort of deal with specially able children and the gift of love which can be given through mindfulness. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Natanya, you have a question?
Yes, ma'am, I have a question. Good morning, doctor.
Morning.
So, doctor, as a corporate worker, I have a question with the rotational shift that we go through each month. Sometimes we have to go through a bi-weekly basis. When we talk about mindfulness, resilience, adaptability, how can we be all of this with our rotational shift and set the circadian rhythm? Because once I was a deep sleeper, but after I got into corporate life for the work, my sleep pattern has got disturbed too much. Food pattern, lifestyle, everything got disrupted. With the help of Redikall, I'm able to recover. But as soon as I walk out of the Zoom room and I walk out of my home and I reach to office, everything starts building up again and again, because I lose. I mean, I miss my meals, water intakes, workout, sun, basic, touch with the nature. Everything is getting lost in front of that screen. And table chair is basically my world. That has become my world now. On this, could you provide a tip that could help us maintain at least basic adaptability, resilience, and mindfulness, so that we can at least stay healthy life mentally? Because most of the time, I know I get headache because of the stress, and that is not something I have it genetically, or I had it since I was born. Most of the time, it is like a psychosomatic. How can we deal with those changes?
Actually, you asked a very Bangalore question. We generally say it's very Bangalore question because 30% of the time we are in the traffic. Rest of the 70% of the time we are at the office. So people ask, why should I stay, at my place? I rather carry a blanket and stay in office. It's a very genuine question, and most of them. I heard even Ahmedabad is also gearing up with the good traffic. The question here is, see, we do have, like, even though if you work for 12 hours, right? No matter, despite of what shift you work, you have 12-hour shift, right?
Yes.
Which means you still have another 12 hours, right?
Yes.
Hopefully that has not been taken away by your company, right?
No. Yeah, indirectly it is taken away because we keep getting mails, texts that tomorrow morning you have to do or tomorrow night you have to do. So the reminder is constantly coming on our phones.
Yeah, let it come, because see, we are once we are working for a company, they think that we are slaves, right? That's the corporate mentality. That's so pathetic. We cannot change their mentality, but definitely we can change our mentality. Okay. So one thing is, don't try to struggle with this. Okay, the more we try to struggle, now I have to spend so much time here, I have to respond to the mail. Like it's a vicious circle. It's like a continuous loop of negative thoughts. It is there, it is there. Whether you want to do it or whether you don't want to do it. Kartum, akartum, anyata kartum. It is there. How to do it? Do it otherwise. Just first relax. Okay. So whenever you get time, sleep. But before go to sleep, keep everything dark. Make your room dark. Try to keep less possible interactions, less possible disturbances. Keep your mobile switch off or on a silent mode. Keep everything dark. Even if you sleep for 4 hours, try to keep a comfortable room to sleep. One thing. And tell your family members not to wake you up or disturb you in between. Unless there is somebody is going to die, don't disturb me. No. Sorry to say that, because you have to be very serious when it comes to sleep. Okay? That dead serious you have to be. One thing, try to sleep. Okay, before go to sleep, just do simple breathing. Breathing in the sense, you do simple Brahmari Pranayama for 9 rounds. Then try to lie down and try to relax, or listen to some instrumental music, whichever makes you feel more subtle or more stable. You listen to music. Second, hydration. Keep one bottle as a reminder in front of your desk. Don't give me an excuse of not to drink water. Keep one big bottle, one bucket like thing in front of you. There's a reminder sitting right in front of you. Keep drinking water, that reminds you. Hydration part is third. Second thing, you fix your work routine. Don't be so flexible. Learn to say no. If your boss says, oh, now send me a mail, I said, I have my schedules. Please, I'll get back to you once I'm on the working schedule. Okay? Keep that very straight. Because there is no free lunch. If you are trying to be so sober, people take you for a ride. So stand up for yourself. Try to say, no, this is not my working hour. My working window is whatever 8 to 6 or whatever the timing is. Post that, that's your time. So nobody has the right to even intervene. So make yourself very clear. Despite of changing shift, make sure you exercise, whether it is running, swimming, gymming, or yoga, any physical activity. Make sure at least 30 minutes a day. 30 minutes, not 1 hour. 30 minutes means you should feel breathless. Even if you can't go out, it is very cold, rainy, hot, doesn't matter. If you have a stairs in your house, in your apartment, just climb it up and down until you feel breathless. That's all. Even at office, if you continuously work for 2 hours, get up, just partially squat without sitting on a chair for 2 minutes, then sit down. You can do small, tiny modifications that can definitely change, a lot of things for you. The thing is, you're getting frustrated because things are changing. change his life. See your parents, where they were and where they are and where they will be. Look at you where you were. So life is change. You cannot expect things to be like smooth sailing. Be prepared for a rough sea. So just try to enjoy it. Don't get so easily frustrated with things. Things will change. Or write something in a capital letter. This too shall pass. Yeah. Don't give me that, don't roll your eyes. That's a reality.
No, doctor. Not rolling. It's like that's the same quote. I have written it down on my office diary. Whenever I open, I have that. This too
No,
shall
not
pass.
opening. It should be visible
It
all
is.
the time.
Okay, I'll just write it on the vision board.
Even we are not permanent. Forget about this job or this routine. Things will change. As long as they are there, just enjoy. Once they change, obviously you won't have that freedom to enjoy. So there's always an option. I have a cancer patient who is stage 4. Yesterday he came for consultation. His doctor told you have another 15 or maybe 20 days. He was so joyful. I was shocked. I was feeling bad. He was so comfortable. He's sitting, doc. The other doc told me another maybe 2 to 3 weeks I may depart. I said, don't you feel bad? I said, why would I? Neither he knows nor I know. He used his medical information to predict my future, but I just follow life as it comes. I don't know. I may die tomorrow or I may die after 10 years. I don't know. Why worry? You are born, which means the day when you are born, it is confirmed that you are going to die. What is that thing to be worried of? If something is very certain in life, that is death. So I am just being open for everything. See, that's why we always, even my patients are my teachers. They always teach hard reality of life with a very simplistic approach that actually gives you that reassurance. We always complain like life is not fair, things are not good. Look at others, they are so comfortable. There is no such thing. Everybody have, and they do go through with their own shit. So sorry to use the yes word, but this is the reality. But nobody wants to show it. So just relax and try to make small changes so that you can, be more comfortable and productive in your day-to-day life. And learn to be happy, madam.
Sure, doctor. Thank you
Right.
so much for that brilliant tip. Actually, you're very much right. Most of us, we forget to enjoy during the work or whatever we do. That is a very brilliant reminder, doctor. I will definitely note it down the quote, which is visible. And small changes, yes, small changes will lead to good shifts, which will help us.
The problem is we make very unrealistic, like New Year goals. We write it down. I want to reduce 20 kilos, but without knowing how.
Yeah.
So they'll go to Decathlon, they'll go to a sports store. They do 20,000 shopping, thinking that tomorrow onwards I will hit the gym, and they never hit gym because you can't go do gymming for 2 hours without any preparation. First, small thing, walk for 10-15 minutes, then make dietary changes, then try to sleep well. Once things starts to fall in to right track, then everything will kicks in. Ours are like too unrealistic expectations to be with. Small targets, big results.
True. Very true, doctor. Very
All
true.
the best, madam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Natanya. That was really helpful, I think, not only for you, but for everybody sitting here. And I love your candid way of speaking, Dr. Vijayakumar. That is wonderful because I think that associates and links all of us, very simplistically, in a simplistic way to what you are saying. And I know everybody would have understood it very nicely. Is there any other question? Anybody else would like to ask a question?
Ma'am, may I? Lakshmi.
Yes, Lakshmi.
May I?
Yes, of
Thank
course.
you. Thank you. Sir, wonderful session. This is actually what I had in my mind. Mamta ma'am also asked. That's one thing in that. As a grandparent, okay, many a times the parent doesn't take the child out because of developmental delays. And I feel that unless I take the child out, we can't really uh, get her socially like more tolerant. So I end up taking her sometimes, but I become so overstressed. I have to be behind her and like, so I need to know how can I bring down my. I am a radical student, so I am working on myself. But since the issue has arisen, some Mamta ma'am has nicely put it up. I would like to know this some way whether the child also can be initiated into yoga to get a hold on things. Like, I mean, in this case also, my daughter is quite averse to getting it analyzed or scanned. She's working on her sense as a mother and how whatever, and she's taken her through several therapies, and child is doing much better. But that's still that socially how to behave when you go out as a 11-year-old, that is missing. So when I take her out, I should be less stressed and I should not be behind her. So I don't put the child in stress. Can there be something for that?
No, actually, you asked a very pertinent question, madam. These days, because it's our responsibility as a
Thank you.
parent to socialize our children, whether they are specially abled or not. The only thing is because of our
Record.
modern lifestyle issues, maybe work life restrictions. Yeah, those things are there. They're also practical, but thing is we have to make time for our children. We have to take them out. We have to socialize them because we have better physical capacity than our parents. As a
Correct.
grandparent, you are trying your best because you have more patience and more compassion, but lesser physical capabilities to cater the children with special need. So my suggestion is, see, you are doing it out of love, but your body is not supporting you because of physical limitation. So please don't feel bad. Whatever you are doing, it is invaluable, not just for the child and for your own children. You are doing for everybody. Okay? Because you are always worshipped as Devi. Only you guys can do that selfless love. Just try to give love. Don't worry. You try to convey the same to kids' parents. If they can make some time, try to socialize. It is okay. Otherwise, you cannot impose or force them to do it. Because the minute we try to force or impose, there will be conflicts.
Right. Very true.
So try how much your best you can make them understand. It will be good for the child and good for them also, because they will also have better acceptance and
Yes.
they will develop better bondage with the child if they spend some time socially. It is highly recommended. Even I suggest in my client that they should make a point every week. They should take the child to a social gathering, like not only their peer group, to like parks where normal people gather. Just take them, entertain them, and promote them to be participating in the normal group as well. It is not always their peer group. Exposing them to a normal groups, normal interaction, normal
Yes.
gatherings, it is very much essential. And without making them feel, you know, that,
Very conscious.
that isolated complex.
Isolated. Correct.
Yeah, they should not feel that isolation. They should feel that, what do you call it as, that universal acceptance.
Yes.
So that parents, being a parent, it's our responsibility to promote the kid and take that responsibility. But if at all they cannot do it, then obviously the responsibility falls onto you.
Yes.
As a grandparents are like big banyan trees. You guys can do anything. You guys are like a wandering wonder machines. So don't worry, madam, and don't feel bad. What you are doing is unexceptionable, and it's like There are no words to define it.
Thank you, sir.
Because whatever we think doesn't matter, but what the kid thinks and feels, that matters a lot. For the sake of kid, whatever you're doing, continue doing. Don't worry.
Huh.
Whatever the destinies wish, it will happen. So
Thank you.
don't feel
Thank
bad.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I think that's a beautiful way to end the session, because we have covered many areas and Dr. Vijayakumar has been very, very generous in his inputs for all of us. So thank you very much, Doctor. And it was a pleasure having you on the Redikall board today for all of us to hear your wisdom and everything that you had to tell us. And thank you. Thank you for being here. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you very much for tolerating me for like more than 1.5 hours. I know Sunday morning everybody wants to get up late and have some nice savory breakfast, but yeah, I actually tortured you with so much unwanted information. Actually, I was feeling nervous because I did not know whether it's a medical community, non-medical community.
Okay.
You know, people feel so frustrated if I don't use technical language, and if I use only layman language, people get so frustrated. So I was actually in the stress, but you guys made me more comfortable. It was like a homecoming.
Thank
And
you.
it was actually a very thoughtful session. I learned a lot from you guys too. Thank you very much, because knowledge always prospered both the ways. It's not like unidirectional flow. Thank you very much. I appreciate Redikall and team. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Namaste.
And for everyone else, from 10:30 till 12 o'clock, you know that there'll be community Zoom rooms. So if you have any questions or if you have any doubts which you'd like to clear, you can come to the rooms at 10:30 to 12 and then 4 to 5:30 in the evening. And then get ready for the evening session, which will start at 7. See you then. All the best. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.